right, Brett, thank you for that serenade. I want to welcome all of you astrology lovers out there. This is Astrology Hub TV, and my name's Amanda Walsh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub. And Astrology Hub is a weekly show dedicated to helping you cultivate your connection to the cosmos and how cultivating this connection can help you live a more empowered, fulfilling, and vibrant life. We're here live most Thursdays at 4 Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. And Astrology Hub TV is made possible by our membership program, The Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is a monthly membership program dedicated to helping you align with the shifting tides of the lunar cycles and to help you study the cosmic curriculum. And in so doing, transform your life in positive and very magical ways. One of the most amazing things about the Inner Circle is that it's led by a different astrologer every single lunar cycle. So you get to really taste and experience a lot of different types of astrology. And in fact, our guest today, Gemini Brett, is going to be our lunar cycle guide for September upcoming. So if you want to learn more about the Inner Circle, enrollment is now open. So you can join us by going to astrologyhub.com/inner circle, astrologyhub.com/inner circle. And thanks to all of our members for making Astrology Hub TV possible through your membership. All right, so today we are live with Gemini Brett to talk about the triple eclipse, serious retrogrades, and clearing the collective wounds of the Atlantean age. Brett was one of our astrologers that we had on our summer forecast panel just a little bit ago. And we had to have him back because we opened up some really interesting doors with him that all of you were very excited about. So we wanted to have him back so we can actually go a little bit deeper with those things. So today you're going to learn why retrogrades help us look not only backwards, but also forward, why it feels sometimes that we can never heal, no matter how much work we're doing, why patriarchy is perpetuated when we avoid the wound at its roots, and what happens when Chiron takes Uranus's place and how we can help. Today's episode is for you if you're feeling the chaos of the times, if you wonder if you can actually make progress and get unstuck in your personal life, and if you want a deeper understanding of the cosmos and how all the energy right now is affecting you. Okay, before we dive in, for those of you that don't know Gemini Brett yet, he is definitely an Astrology Hub favorite, so many of you are very familiar with him. But for those of you who are new to him, I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about him. So as a certifiable starry teller, Gemini Brett began his formal study with the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, but has since synthesized his own terrestrially tuned celestial stew by integrating ingredients from many ancient and modern paradigms. Brett's principal intention is to retrieve the star songs heard in times before the written word. He transmits the mysteries he finds in sacred sites and living sky through a system of exercise he calls Earth Astrology and through the sacred sciences of the quadrivium, geometry, musical harmony, astronomy, and number and nature. Gemini is best known throughout cosmic circles as an astronomy for astrology expert and mystic mythologist. All right. Before we go to Gemini Brett, a couple questions for all of you out there. We would love to know, how have you been experiencing this eclipse season so far? Are you feeling affected by it? Are things happening that make you think, oh my gosh, this is eclipse related? Have you felt a significant shift since Uranus has moved into Taurus? Okay, so any of those questions about the eclipse and or Uranus moving into Taurus, we would love, love, love to hear from you. And even if we don't get to address you today live, we do look back at all the comments and love to engage with you after the show. Okay. Gemini Brett, how are you?
Good. I'm sorry. My bio is like a trickster tongue twister.
It's always this challenge that I get like geared up for, and today I would give myself like a C. But sometimes
you always do best with it, just so you know. How in the heavens are you, Amanda?
Gemini Brett, I have had better days or easier days. And actually, the words that I was telling the audience yesterday about taking seeming challenges and turning them into positive things in our lives is really like present with me, because today I had just finished an amazing conversation with David Cochran talking with him about what he's going to contribute to our upcoming fall summit. I was all excited, all inspired. I was on my beach walk, having a great morning. I get back to my car and the window is shattered and my purse and my wallet are gone. And of course, I'm traveling on Monday. So it's like, oh my gosh, all my credit cards, my driver's license, everything gone. And so the whole morning's been like, okay, like make the list, deal with things one by one by one by one. Of course, there's still more things to deal with. And so in my head, I'm going, okay, I'm the one who said yesterday that during the eclipse, like sudden things can happen, changes can happen. And what's most important is how we respond to the energy, whether or not we can remain optimistic and see the blessings. And so I'm doing my best and I keep asking, okay, what's the gift? What's the gift? What's the gift? And so that's kind of how I'm doing.
Yeah. Pretty presents wrapped in ugly papers. And the way to unwrap them is through presence and getting centered and being in it and not running from it and feeling that anger, which is totally real and justified, and like allowing that to express. And yeah, all these things seem to be part of this karmic quest, and doing the work in the real time. I'm sorry to hear that, though. It's such a drag, especially when you're about to travel. It sounds pretty eclipsy.
It's so eclipsy, and it feels so vulnerable and like violating, like someone just like, breaking into your space like that. And it brings up like a lot of things, and I can be really trusting. So for me, it's like this, really, like I have to be so much more guarded than I want to be. But then I realize there's like a naivete and not just dealing with it, like, and I was thinking about the word careful, like being more careful just means having more care, have more care for my things. And it doesn't have to be this thing, this admission that like the world's an awful place. It can just be like, okay, well,
careful is caring.
What's that?
Yeah, careful. It's interesting because I'm thinking caring. They're really, they're Cancer words. Like trust is a Cancer word. That place, and the way that often we associate the fourth and the IC. So inner circle is one way that Astrology Hub plays for that. And there's that community, that family vibe, that circle that's very, Cancer. But also just that Imam Cheli, it means the bottom of the heavens, in other words, hell. And that place in the chart, the bottom of the chart, the fourth. It's such a deep initiation. It's really where we learn to open the heart. And we can only do that through, first of all, like knowing that we have needs to be fed and learning to express those needs. That's like the third house, learning to communicate, the second. And that's the house of the goddess, because as a baby, that's who I have to learn how to communicate with, to receive food and to be held and safe, And it is that place of safety, which is only open, that gateway, when we can truly trust, where we can rest, we're sheltered, we feel safe, and that's where you can rest, open the heart. And that's the trine to the 12th and hidden things. And we reconnect to the dream where we are all one. But that idea of safety. So when we have a Cancer eclipse, just archetypally speaking, this is a thing that can be alive, right? How is your house eclipsed? How is your safety, your shelter, where you're comfortable? It doesn't have to be in your home, it's at the car. Like that's an amazing initiation. Sorry to hear that. Do you have a passport?
I do. Thank God I have a passport, which is like saving me. But I just want to invite all of us, like what you just said, eclipsing our home, eclipsing our car, eclipsing the places where we feel nurtured. Just maybe an invitation, if we can take what happened to me and make it beneficial to all, just an invitation to take that extra step, take that extra time to make things secure and safe and be careful. So hopefully that helps some of you. That would make it worth it.
The triple eclipse finishes in my fourth house, my natal chart. And so I'm like eclipsing my house and moving back to California. There's all this retrograde. I used to live here. It was actually 18 years ago in the same eclipse cycle, the last time this triple eclipse family came around, that I moved to California last. And so it's really interesting to see that this cycle is kind of bringing me back this way. And sometimes it's powerful, sometimes it's avoiding, and sometimes it's like it's a little bit blasphemous, but sometimes it's a really powerful thing to say, okay, here's this energy, it's coming to this place in my life. How can I make myself available to receive that energy? How can I actually give it a place to express? right? How do I want an eclipse of the fourth house? Well, I can take that power of like eclipsing my house, renting it out and moving and asking for support, you know, and like sometimes you just feel that call for change coming in, and it's beautiful to open space for it to breathe and support you. And, you know, one of my mantras is choose change before change chooses you, especially when we have these like Uranus, Pluto, change agent, eclipse things happening, comet things happening. So one thing you said that we talk about is this idea that, you know, in this plethora of retrogrades, that the retrogrades not only ask us to look back as they do, right? Because here are planets apparently traveling backwards, and really what's happening is optical illusion, but we do see them very visibly move backwards through the signs and the constellations of the zodiac. And it gives us time to pause, slow down, look back, rewind. Integrate is such an imperative word in our study. You know, this cosmic curriculum, as Astrology Hub has come to call it. I love that. It is so diverse and endless. And if we don't take time to integrate and be in that space and rewind and really connect to that nugget, you know, I read so many books, and the good ones are the ones where you read a sentence and it's like, boom, you got to shut that thing and put it somewhere and go sit for a while and just like, you know, feel that message. I know you guys interviewed Maurice Fernandez last week, and I'm reading his new book right now, and it's like that, you know, it's like this sentence, and okay, I'm gonna have to go like walk on that one for a few days.
That is his book about the 12th house.
Yeah. And Pisces and Neptune, and but there's a thing where the retrograde motion is in another respect forward, because there are beings of the cosmic cast that typically move in that direction. And they are the lunar nodes. So there are other typical retrograde motions, actually only retrograde, like the Venus star, the beautiful star that Earth and Venus and the sun make over the course of 8 Earth years. That star very slowly over time is retrograding, shifting through these archetypes. The Mercury star does the same. Well, there's what I call the meta retrogrades of the Mercury, where he goes by a year, and they'll do a year in the earth and then a year in the fire. And he's kind of moving what we think of as a backwards order through the elements of the zodiac. And the precession of the equinoxes, right? Like the great astrological ages, the cycle that Plato called the great year, and many often now call the Platonic year, but it's about 26,000 years long, with each of these astrological ages being about 2,160 years long. And we move from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, then to the age of Capricorn and that. So there's something about the retrograde motion that helps us not only rewind in our daily life, but open us up to something a little bit more karmic, and in the truth that the Taurus motion, it's like a twisting in 2 directions at once. If you do that with a can, you know, it brings you closer to the center. And the zodiac works in this way in many different ways I won't get into now because it'll take more than our time allotted. But there's something here, you know, when we see, okay, here's a triple eclipse, which is pretty rare and typically happens in the Northern Hemisphere summer months. And the reason is because the Earth is traveling slower at those times. And you don't want to get too into that, but there's a little nugget, a key for you guys to go contemplate that and think about what that means. But you will go Cancer solar eclipse, and then the sun in Leo for the Aquarius total lunar eclipse, and then a Leo solar eclipse, partial solar eclipses. And so we have that Cancer to Leo motion, that direct motion through the zodiacal order. And yet the nodes are moving the other way. In fact, this Cancer eclipse is the announcement that we're about to shift, because where the lunar nodes are, and astronomically speaking, what are they from Earth's point of view, where the paths of moon and sun cross? In my own personal cosmology, from the view of matter, Earth, where the paths of soul and spirit, moon and sun cross. And they move backwards or retrograde through the zodiac, a course of 18 and a half years, 18.618 years, about a year and a half in every sign. And so as they've been North Node Leo, South Node Aquarius, we've had our eclipse, that's the stages for the eclipses, Aquarius and Leo. And they can be in the neighboring signs, but you know, that's the focus. And now in November, I think November 6th, they will retrograde, or because they usually move retrograde, I like to call it directrograde. But they'll ingress or regress from North Node Leo to North Node Cancer. and south node Aquarius to south node Capricorn. We'll do a year and a half of that, and the eclipses will be focused there, and then they'll move back to Gemini, Sagittarius, right? So there's something in this triple eclipse season which also, in these long Saros cycles that on average are 1,280 years, where the pulse, the heartbeat of the shadow is 18.03 years, 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours, or 223 lunations, right? So you have to have 223 guides at the inner circle. And then we have the same eclipse family come around again. And it does that like 71 times. So like 1,280 years. And when we have a triple eclipse, it's the end of one of these long families of eclipses. In this case, that's moved all the way from the North Pole of the Earth and wrapped around and down over this long period of time. And it's about to finish, and its replacement comes in. So in 1928, the replacement started, and they're traveling together in this triple eclipse period: partial solar, total lunar, partial solar. The second of the solars, in this case, Leo, it's the one that will take the place. And the first one is going to go away in 2054. And then we'll just have, in this same kind of eclipse season, we'll just have a lunar and a solar. But so it's an amazing time where we have these, like, I want to say changing of the guards, but I really don't want to say changing of the guards. This is this hand, this embrace.
The energy.
Yeah, but it's like passing of the baton. You know, it continues. There's like a reincarnational idea in there. You know, this is support. It's like, oh, you know, it'd be more as like the magician who's like ready to transition, and the great apprentice is in here, and they like meta like shift their consciousness into that being, so it will continue the elders passing of the knowledge. You know, we're in that state in this particular eclipse family since 1928, coming around every 18 years, and the last time was in the year 2000. Right, so 2036, 2054 will be like the full transmission, transfer, and then it's on to the apprentice, you know, to really develop and become the old sage himself. That's a better image than the changing of the guards. So there's something in that retrogradation, all of these retrograde motions, and the truth that the eclipses are going forward from Cancer to Leo, but symbolizing and signaling, actually, it's not a symbolization, it's an actual happening, that the node's going from Leo to Cancer. And so we get to go in both directions. And that can be utterly confusing, right? Because people often ask me, like, you know, I brought this up. It's strange. The thing that I love most about astrology right now, and I teach most, and I really always have, is the idea of renaturing astrology, being very much embodied and in a practical witness, and starting with the visible lights. And while I'm very metaphysical or whatever, I try not to get too new age or woo, because I really want to be grounded in our craft and honor the old ways and help renew them. And I'm very interested in making astrology herself more available to the cynics and the scientists. But you know, part of what I practice, I recorded a long go live on my page today. People can see that on Facebook. I'm Brett Joseph there, about the idea of a planet sit. And this comes from plant sits, right? So the idea of a plant sit, you know, my herbalist friends, here comes Crow. My herbalist friends will, you know, they'll go and sit with the plant they're studying, like St. John's wort, right? And you soften your gaze and you kind of clean your diet, and you just sit there an hour a day at least, you know, and just communicate with this plant, or make yourself available to. And so this we can do with planets. So to get outside when we see that beaming Venus, and to sit down and to just say, hi, I'm Brett. Wow. And I would love to know you, and maybe bring some flowers, a lei, you know, where you are in Hawaii, traditional offering. Here we are, tobacco. Here's this beautiful half moon I see right here. You know, what can I bring to the moon as an offering? The greatest thing I could bring is my presence, and be there in relationship. The moon's in the last degrees of Libra right now, just in relationship, and say hello. And I would love to learn more about you. And I give myself to you. Now, will you give yourself to me? And then make ourselves available to receive the exchange. And to do that, we have to completely release our expectations of how a moon would communicate. Is the moon going to communicate to me in the language called English? Probably not. You know, She likes to speak in dreams traditionally. But even if I bring that, and the cup is full of expectations of how these beings communicate or act, I might very well eliminate the opening that would allow me to receive, right? And I love to say that expectation is the enemy of surprise, and surprise is the portal of hearing, basically. So the thing I've been practicing lately, and this comes from the truth that we measure astrology from the center of Earth, where we're all connected. You know, Amanda, if you reach your hands up right now, you're in Hawaii, I'm in California, we're pointing to different stars. But down through our spine, we connect together in the center of Earth. And so we measure astrology from this place where we are all one, really, in space and time, Gaia's heart. And she hears that celestial symphony, resonates to it, and then broadcasts it outwards in all directions at once. So, you know, many of us won't see this total lunar eclipse on the 27th, but just because you don't see it doesn't mean you don't be it. It's happening there. So the thing I've been doing lately is really encouraging myself and other people to fully ground and lay down and close our eyes and like look into the fears about the bugs and the dirt and things, and just really relax our bones, which are her stones, and become the earth before we open our eyes to see the heavens. And when I'm engaging with Jupiter or with Venus, to first like empty my cup and experience that in the above, but also understand like we're astrologically connecting that, you know, from the Earth's point of view, the center of Earth. And so I'll go there and then at the same time go down and try to feel that grounding of that circuit, and then like, you know, the energetic coming through. So first of all, Earth will hold me, because sometimes the energy you receive when you're ready to can be rather shocking and very electric and alive and difficult, especially if we're engaging with this fiery, bright red Mars right now. I mean, I've been hearing from so many people like, he's too much, as I hear you. But really grounding the circuit. And what's trippy for me is like this, I feel, is such like a embodied, natural, sentient, slow process. Like if I want to connect to a plant, I have to slow myself down to plant speed. And I have to slow myself down to Jupiter speed. You know, it's very slow. Earth speed is where we really hear it, the grace of Earth's pace. But as I'm tuning in more and more to Earth, I'm starting to like hear her story. And that's just taking me into these really strange, like kind of woo metaphysical places. So when I was on for Astrology Hub's Summer Jam, summer forecast recently, it was not in any way my intent, but I found myself speaking about Atlantis, and then I've gotten 1,000 emails since, and people want to hear more about that. So I thought we'd go there a little bit today.
Before we do that, can I just?
Yeah.
I want to grab something.
Okay.
So for those of you who are wanting to communicate, I love this planet sitting. This is brilliant. I just got this app. I know it's been around for a long time, but I finally just got it. It's called Star Chart, and probably many of you have it already. But what it's enabling me to do is whenever I look up at the sky and go, what is that? I can just put my phone up and find out what it is. And the other morning, Mars was like, unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. When I put my star chart thing on it and was like, oh my God, that's Mars. The way that it hit me was so powerful. I hear you and Adam Gainsbourg and so many of you amazing astrologers talking about forming a relationship with the living sky. And I wasn't able to do it until I got this little piece of technology that's helping me just bridge that gap, you know, because I don't look up at the star and go at the stars and go, oh, there's you know, I just don't know. So it's helping me learn in a way that's really tangible. Like that whole Jupiter thing you're talking about. I'm like out there every night. It's like, well, there's Jupiter again. There's Jupiter again. And even just to watch the motion of the planets as they're moving and being in different places every night. It's amazing. I mean, really.
But see, you've met Jupiter. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you've met Jupiter, and now you don't need the app, right? So the app's a great bridge. Totally. And then it's like, in a month, you'll look at Jupiter and you'll be like, wait a second, he used to be on the right side of that star and now he's on the left side. Who's that star? Zubin El Janubi, that's a cool name, right? And then that links in, and then you know Jupiter won't be there again for 12 years, and you start witnessing this thing, and then you know you learn more and more slowly. Yeah, Star Chart's a wonderful app, best art by the way. And there's the search button function there, and the button next to it. It will show you all the rising and setting times for all the planets, just so you know. It's a really convenient option in that app.
Wow.
The app that I use most. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Gary Caton, when he was our Inner Circle guide, was talking about the fixed stars with all those funky names. And to being able to see those, it's like, wow, those are really bright. they're every, wow, amazing. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, learning to see the ecliptic. I mean, we go on, and that's like, you know, that's for me, I call that sacred astronomy. And so the app is great because the app can bridge the gap, but then it will stand in the way. Yeah. Or now a thing that I love to do, like Gary is, but not like Gary learning, but get out there and take pictures, you know, because I'm going to these great spaces and dark skies, and I really want to share that with people, and they're stoked. But I'm out of my practice when the camera comes in. It's just, you know, it's between me and the heavens, and I'm learning, you know, and usually for the sky photo, I have to take like a 30-second shot. So I'll hit the thing and then I'll like tune in, and then I'll come back. You know, but it's tricky. Like today, Anna and I are going to go watch the sky, because almost all the visible planets are visible right now, and to spend some time with each being. So and there'll be no camera, right? Because I really want to go and make myself available.
Brilliant. A couple places that I would love to go to. We're starting to run out of time, and there's two really big things that I would love if we can touch on. One is the concept that we brought up earlier for people who feel like no matter how much work they do, they're stuck. Like that question of like, oh my gosh, how much healing do I have to do? Is this ever going to get better? That's one. Second, the Atlantean piece. If we can start with those, and they're probably linked together. Would be
they're one and the same, really. And so Atlantis is maybe even trickier A word than astrology. Is it aliens, Atlantis, astrology? People run away. And so I just want to make it very clear that when I say Atlantis, though I'm very interested in the entire lore. For me, I feel that at least for part of the Earth, that is what we called Earth. And that Atlantis is everywhere, basically. It looked a little different back then, but that it's just what we call Earth now. Say in 50,000 years after some great mess, you know, they're like, where is Earth? What is Earth? Because they're calling this place, you know, who knows what. So everybody doesn't call Earth, right? Around the globe right now, but that's what our culture's name is for it. And there was a culture who called this place Atlantis. That's my general feeling. The Atlantis story in general comes from Plato and comes from a conversation he overheard by Solon. And it's a really, I think, interesting and almost important place to go back to that writings, which is in Plato's Timaeus and Critias. Because what he talks about there is why Atlantis fell and what happened. And basically it was the hubris of these people. Because we want to be careful with this word warning, but in a sense it's a warning about, you know, how we work and act as human beings. But generally speaking, and science is starting to catch up, you know, science in general has been very sensitive with getting into any idea that there was a cataclysm or that there was anything but a gradual change to Earth. Because as soon as you say, okay, it was overnight and it was a flood, suddenly it feels like they've given in to the other side, which is like the Bible team. And that we've been so divided in that idea of spirit versus science, or at least religion versus science, that we're not getting into the thing. I mean, there was undeniably a much more advanced, or at least there was a more advanced civilization, or at least a civilization that had a very different type of technology than we do. And the Great Pyramid is all the proof you need. I was going to show a slide, which is like Sacsayhuaman in Peru. All over the globe are these amazing sites that there are no way we could build today. And the rap that they were built by slaves, or I've gone to places in Peru, 50-ton pink granite stone walls, and they say, oh, the slaves carried it from the quarry on that mountain and up this mountain. And it's like moving on. I love sitting there and listening to the tour guides, because it's like, that is ridiculous. Could you even believe that? So all over the globe, we are left with evidence that's not just like, oh, cool, but there were people around. it is clues of how we can get right with our own technology that actually supports the earth instead of fights her. And that's a time that's alive for us. This is Uranus and Taurus. Okay. So let me bring in a little astrology. Uranus is just ingressed Taurus. It was May 15th of 2018. Uranus will retrograde in August, head back into Aries on November 6th, and come into Taurus full stop in March of 2019, I believe. Chiron has come into Aries to take Uranus's place. And this is a very important thing. Chiron himself, who's now at, in a sense, the world point, the equinox point, where Pisces becomes Aries, the end of the beginning of the end of the beginning again. It's the direction east, which is the way of the rise. Chiron will head back into Pisces for some unfinished business to come in. So in the great myths, Uranus really seems connected to the Promethean energy. And Chiron took Prometheus's place. I'd love to tell the entire story here, but we don't have time. I can send people an article I wrote about this recently. But part of what happened here is Prometheus, it said, created us. And it said he created us, humans, after we were last destroyed, like human 3.0. And we had lost our way of reverence. And so Jupiter's like, all right, done, you know? And Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus were sent to create us, and it was all okay until Prometheus stole fire to give to us. And we were punished by the flood. This is in the Greek myths, you know? We were also punished by Pandora's box, which is a very kind of patriarchally twisted story. But very importantly, this box held all sorts of disaster, but it also held what Jupiter put in there with hope. And Jupiter allowed two to live, and they were the son of Prometheus, who is Deucalion, and his wife Pyrrha, or Pyrrha, fire. And they lived because they were reverent, and they ended up being our grandparents. You know, they found their way to a temple after this great disaster, and the flood weather settled, and they spoke to the spirit of Themis, who told them to throw the bones of their grandmother over their shoulders. And it took them a while to figure out that was Gaia, that was Earth. And they threw her stones. And it said the stones over Deucalion's shoulder became man, and those over Pyrrha became woman. And that's like human 4.0, and that's who we are. So one of many myths around the world that speaks of this flood. And all around the world, we have talk about this global cataclysm. So my general feeling of this, and I will refer people to like the work of Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods. This is an amazing book from about 20 years ago, a recent book called Magicians of the Gods, where he's speaking about after the flood, the teachers that came and all the global myths to teach us not to eat each other anymore and to like plant things and do agriculture and civilize after we had gone into this crazy like Mad Max zone of, you know, post-cataclysmic survival. So that to me is this idea when we can't get past these blocks, or you feel like you've been pushing and you want to change, and you see people go to these retreats and it's immediate and it's not happening for me. And what that, you know, first of all, when the change happens, it's like that. And so having some pace and some actually love for that pace is part of the thing, just on, you know, on a counseling level in the real time. But part of it too is because we are so afraid of this deeply seated collective wound that I feel at the time we were very telepathic. I feel when I say that word, we can't even understand what that means. Because when I say that, I think of, oh, you and I are talking and we don't move our mouths. But no, it's not you and I talking. It's emerging. In that at the time of this flood, most of humanity died in a moment. And the rest of us, the people who didn't die, felt it all. And that pain, not to mention the disaster of thousands of years without sunlight really, and cold time, and scarcity of food, and just in full survival mode. I mean, what has to become of the human being when our only directive is to survive? And this to me, when, you know, another thing you spoke about in the introduction is like the wound at the root of patriarchy. All these things are in one global crystal ball. We see patriarchy. I'll tend to take people through these meditations. Describe to me the character that is patriarchy. And usually we see like, you know, the false warrior with the bloody spear, or the bad king with the turkey leg and off with his head, you know. But for me, as soon as we can start tuning into patriarchy as a crying child, that's when we will start bringing healing. One of my favorite images, and one I've used in a talk a lot, is the feminist with the hammer, and it says, if I had a hammer, I'd smash patriarchy. And it's like, found it. It's such a brilliant image. But the more I sit with that, it's like, oh, if I had a hammer, I'd perpetuate patriarchy. We're meant to be at the end of the age of Pisces, and we speak about healing and merging and the one heart, and this beautiful poet and the dancer. Where is that? It certainly feels to me like we are in the age of war still. So what's happening? And to me, we're just running full speed. Our culture and our own personal lives, we are creating as many distractions as we can to avoid this painful wound. And I feel that part of this idea of Chiron, like literally moving from the Pisces waters of compassion. Compassion was born when he chose to take Prometheus's place. And Chiron astrologically right now is taking the place of Prometheus, Uranus at the world degree, coming from these waters of compassion. And part of that, I think, opens a window into our ability to see past a block way back when that's just too painful to go through. And if we don't address the wound or heal the wound, then it just continues to perpetuate through rape and disaster and all these terrible things that seem to be so prevalent. Even stolen wallets, and broken windows. And, so part of the answer there, of course, is love. Like, we could play the ballad for the thief instead of just hating them, and we should express our angers. But as we're going through this in our daily lives, I mean, these things, like that's an initiation you're going through, right? You can totally like turn your back on it and avoid it if you say, well, it's not nearly as bad as what other people are going through. That's true. And it's wonderful to have gratitude and a true resonance for, the blessings we have for where we are in this world right now and the opportunities we have. But we also want to not turn our back on our own pain, our own shame, our own guilt, and go into those places with glee and love and do deep healing. And as we just live our daily lives, we really are addressing these ancient wounds. We don't have to have past life regressions. People do that. That's cool. Do your thing. But for me, it's really embracing and loving and living every moment of this life where we are addressing deep past things. As soon as we decide to stop running from it, get centered, be present, slow down, get out of the rat race, find the grace of Earth's place and become Earth, so we can connect to this deep soil in her own voice to say that there's a reason for all of these things.
Wow. You have given us so much to work with, Gemini Brett. So if I can just recap, I mean, we've talked about planet sitting and forming a relationship with the planets in that same way that people sit with plants, but first even grounding into the earth and really feeling our connection with earth. We're talking about allowing the healing process to happen around this collective wound. I remember you said at the summer forecast that you think that many of us were actually the survivors of that great flood or that great catastrophe. And so we were the ones who actually got to experience a lot of people dying all at once. So sitting with those wounds, allowing them to move through us. I know that's, when the thing happened with my wallet today, I literally was like on the phone with the credit card companies and the police department and all of it, just crying. I was just like crying. And it was like, this actually feels really good. It just feels really good to just like let these tears go and be okay with it and feel the like, oh, I'm a dummy. I shouldn't have left it and made it so easy for the guy to steal my purse, but then the compassion, like, oh, well, okay, I did it and I learned and, things happen.
What about the old voice that would have said, keep it together? Like you're crying, totally. You're embarrassing yourself, right? So that I just celebrate you for being authentic and allowing a policeman, whatever, to remember to be in their heart.
Yeah. I mean, really, it was a police woman, actually. She was very sweet.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and strong. So yes, so much for us to work with. And one of the things I love about you as our inner circle guide is that we get to take so many of these ideas and concepts that you have and actually work with them in a really, really tangible way. So you're going to be our inner circle guide. I'm so excited for the September lunation. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be working with and what you're really going to be focused and highlighting?
Yeah, a Virgo lunation and the new moon in the sign of Aries, like right at equinox time. And I really almost went into deciding that my theme should be the sacred marriage and relationship work in astrology and utilizing the chart to do the inner work of inner marriage, Hero Skymos. But Ariel Gutman's following me. And she's written great books on Venus, which is kind of one of my principal places because Venus will station retrograde during the September lunation when I start. So another thing that's happening is all of the visible planets and even beyond are in feminine signs. That crow's like, you don't say feminine anymore, say yin. It's okay. But are in these water and earth signs at the new moon. And I really want to move into that. So much of my work lately has been exploring the language of astrology from before there's words, and I enter it through the compass and square, sacred geometry, or musical harmony. These are the old sciences, astronomy. And so we're going to do some of that, and we're going to get really basic, actually, and get into aspect theory. Like, why is a sextile a sextile? But explore them from not me saying, this is what a sextile is, it's 60 degrees, and this is what it means. From saying, okay, this is what it sounds like. This is what it looks like. This is how you create it, right? This is what the moon looks like when she's sextile sun. And connect in an embodied, sentient way with practices. Because part of the theme will be the sacred, getting centered, calling in our calling for people who feel like that's part of the main quest. So many of our people we have the opportunity to sit with now, that's the number one question. Who am I? What am I here to do? Helping them invite that, right? But then also working with astrological technique and the principle, like masterclass that I'll share because that happens every month in the inner circle. It's a great thing about inner circle. I think you know this, Amanda, but maybe people who are listening don't, is we'll look at the translation of light, which is a beautiful ancient technique usually used for electional astrology or horary astrology, but it can be applied natally and it can be applied every day. It's about feeding the moon, which I'll talk more about what that means. But it's the other side of void of course. So we hear void of course often, and it's like all this kind of negative connotation. Doesn't have to be. It can be sit, be present. But translation of light is the other side of it. Nobody talks about it. Why is astrology so tuned into like, fear this, dude, you know, and not giving us the other side, the real side of it, which is the beautiful gift and how we can connect to the heavens. So we're going to get kind of basic, but in a beautiful, new, embodied, sentient way, and then take that to a technique that we can use practically every day.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. Cannot wait. For those of you who are not yet members of the Inner Circle, you can enroll now. And if you enroll today, you will actually get to experience Carol Ferris's final masterclass training and forecast for the full moon. So if you want to get in and experience Gemini Brett and join us in the middle of a lunar cycle and really benefit from Carol Ferris, who's also amazing, you can do so now. So Stephanie, do you mind putting up a couple slides for everybody? Like I said in the beginning, Astrology Hub TV is made possible by our Inner Circle membership. And so we want to open up the opportunity for any of you, again, who are not yet members, to hop on board, join the membership. Every single lunar cycle, you have a different astrologer as your guide. That astrologer does a new moon forecast, a full moon forecast, and two mastery class trainings that will teach you some tool or technique about astrology. You'll also get cosmic updates delivered to your phone. That was one of the most amazing things, to be going through this experience today with my wallet, with my stolen wallet, and to have the cosmic update embodiment tips in my mind about working with my emotions and not letting it rule me. So they can be really practical and tangible as you're going throughout your life. You'll get updates about what's happening in the sky and tips from the astrologer guide for that lunar cycle about how to work with it. You also get soul work assignments that help you really align your spiritual practice with the cosmic energies. So again, the whole idea behind the inner circle is to align with the cosmic curriculum and be in that co-creative relationship with the universe so that we can live our most empowered, purposeful lives here. Okay, so let's see what you get. You get monthly live forecasts and ceremonies, live master classes, a live Q&A with astrologers, and an interactive group. So you get to actually form an intimate relationship with the astrologer guides. You get downloadable recordings and transcripts. If you're anything like me, you don't have a lot of time to watch video. So being able to download it, access it on your phone, take the audio with you on the go, you can do that. And then our private online community, which is where a lot of the really juicy conversation happens, a lot of reflections on the soul work assignments. It's where we really build community together. Also, if you're new to astrology, there's a beginner bonus gift, right, that you receive right upon registration. And it's a video training for astrology chart reading. You also get full access to the 2018 summer forecast and the whole year forecast. And then access to the Inner Circle library for 2018. So if you missed master classes from this year, you get access to all those ones that you missed. And so this is a $27 a month investment, and you can cancel at any time. So if you want to try it out, see if you like it, you get all of those things for $27 a month. And again, you can try it. And if it's for you, great, stay. If not, then there's lots of other resources at Astrology Hub that you can benefit from. And we will continue to make those things available to you in large part thanks to our members and our membership. So all right, so these are the astrologer guides that are coming up. We're right with Carol Ferris right now, Davina Del Sol, Gemini Brett, Ariel Gutman, who Gemini Brett just talked about, Tashi Dos Santos, Jennifer Rasiopi, and Stephanie Gailing. So they're all coming up, and we're going to have our 2019 announcement, the lineup for our 2019 astrologer guides coming very soon. Gemini Brett, anything you want to add before we close up?
Yeah, I just checked the chat and somebody asked where could I get that article I mentioned. My website is morethan.astrology.com. And it's actually not there, but if you go to morethan.astrology.com/free, enter your email and I'll send you a bunch of stuff, including that article. And during the summer forecast, I said I would be sending out these videos about the galactic alignment, the solstices. I decided to really work on the animations because I'm addressing the 13th sign conundrum from the NASA camp. And I really want to make sure I'm super diligent about all of my information. I'm in the middle of a move, but I'm almost done with the first part and it's good. So sign up over there and I'll send you a bunch of stuff, including the video when it's ready. 12 free lessons for my Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers class with things about planet sits and whatnot and other things. So go there. And thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you, Gemini Brett. Can't wait to go deeper with you in September. And I didn't say the link for those of you that are interested in checking out the Inner Circle, astrologyhub.com/inner circle, all one word, astrologyhub.com/inner circle. Check it out. We would love to have you. And let's see. Next week, we will not be here. So tune in again with us in 2 weeks. I'm going to be at my brother's wedding in Seattle, which is very exciting, my little brother. So I'll be doing that. But we'll be back with you the following week. And I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you for your continued support and enthusiasm. It really makes what we do so much fun. It helps us continue to keep going day after day, year after year. So thank you so much for being a part of our community. And thank you for making astrology a part of your life. We'll see you in a couple weeks.